is happening, everybody? My name is Beth and welcome back to Every Day is Spooktober. Now today we have a really fun review because we are talking about the not so talked about movie because it didn't get a theatre release in the UK. I don't know about the US or anywhere else, but we are talking about Infinity Pool. Now when Infinity Pool trailer came out, I was like really intrigued and I was actually really excited to see this because it looked very messed up. It looked very just crazy and just out of this world weird. And I mean, like, I'm a sucker for a film like that. Maybe not to the extent of like some really weird ones, like Human Centipede and that stuff. Like, I'm not into that, but like more like, like the film Men. That's some weird story and film and everything that went on with it. So I was kind of getting similar vibes from Infinity Pool, like it was going to be a very like uncomfortable, weird, trippy experience, and it definitely was, that's for sure. Yeah, let's just talk about Infinity Pool. So obviously, like from the trailer and everything, it kind of does it kind of gives you a little bit of explanation as to what the story is mainly about. Obviously, I think the story is unique and very special in its own way. I mean, like, I've never seen anything like this before, and I don't really think there's much like this out there. But I think the whole concept of where rich people go to this place on holiday, and then if they break the law, they can pay money to the police. They can get their body duplicated so that when they go to execute, I guess the death penalty is a thing where they're based, but when they go to execute them, they execute the double that they made of the other person, so that the real one gets to live and stay alive. I think this concept's really interesting, and I think it's a very good commentary on sort of the wealthy, rich kind of people, which I quite like. Like it's not one of those films where it's really, don't get me wrong, it's like very art house, it's very artsy kind of film, but it's not one of those films where it's so artsy and so metaphoric that you don't actually understand what's happening and you have to go and Google it after you watch the film. This wasn't like that. It was pretty self-explanatory. Don't get me wrong, there were a few little things in there where maybe were a bit confusing, maybe you had to, it made you think at the end basically, which I think is a very good way of, getting a film to repeat on people and not allowing them to forget about it, which I think works really well. Like I said, this is a very art house based film. It's a lot to do with visuals. Everyone plays like a very significant role, I think, within this group. And we have some pretty big actors. Obviously, we've got Mia Goth, who's really bringing it with horror at the minute. And then we have Alexander Skarsgård, Pennywise's bro, which I know he's been in loads of stuff. I haven't seen a ton of his work, so I don't really know. I haven't really seen him in much, but I thought he had a pretty good performance. There was a few other people that I kind of saw that were familiar, but that was about it. And obviously this is directed by Brennan Cronenberg, who I haven't seen any of his other work. I don't think he's done a ton of stuff, but I haven't actually seen any of the other movies that he's made. So quite a new, I guess, filmmaker making sort of group that came with this. But, I quite like that. I think that we need fresh new people to bring us new and fresh ideas. Like, we're recycling the same material, which is very much what, not just in the horror genre, but in every freaking genre. But for some reason, Hollywood likes recycling everything that's already been made because it's easy money. I want to see something different. And this is what delivered. And, like, I was quite shocked and surprised by this because I kind of wasn't expecting it to be so out of the box and different that it was. So I was really pleased about that. I think this whole, like, I guess you could argue it's a bit of like a cultish film as well. Like, obviously, James drives his girlfriend away after he becomes, has his double made of him, and then James starts to join like Mia Goth and all the other rich people, and he becomes part of this group, and they just go out and they wear masks and they go and like they break into places and they go and do illegal stuff. And throughout the film, we're constantly seeing doubles made of the group and a lot of also James as well, which I think is very interesting because we are kind of going on a journey with this guy and we're learning sort of about him, because when we see him, he seems like he's very sort of tied down his wife, called Emily, and I think the whole premise of him sort of breaking out of that and being his own person and getting rid of all this like negative energy that he has and just being an individual, being himself and thoroughly enjoying his life, I think is a really interesting commentary as well. Like when we get to the end of the film and everyone's going back home, and all the characters like switch out of these like personas of like, oh, I'm rich and like I can get away with anything here, to then go into the actual lives where they have to work and they have to be back in the real world and they're like done living in fantasy land. I think that whole switch is really interesting because we don't see that side of them. We just see these people who just think they can get away with murder, and well, literally, and like they do, whereas obviously in the real world they can't behave like that. So this is kind of like an escapism for rich people, which, if you think about it, is very depressing, that the rich people have to go somewhere and commit crimes in order to kind of fulfill their life, enjoy their life. And I think the fact that with this they play on that massively. I think it's a really fun and interesting idea because it's very depressing and it's very true in some senses. You know, people with a lot of money, it's like, where do you find happiness anymore? Where do you find enjoyment in life? How do you have enjoyment in life when you've got so much money? I like that aspect. I thought that was a cool commentary, and it was something I hadn't seen before. I mean, I know there's definitely commentary on things like kind of wealth and things like that, but this was a really cool concept, and I quite enjoyed it. Like I said, one of the other things that really drew me to this film is when I was looking at reviews and stuff, people were saying that this film was like utterly like disgusting and shocking. And I mean, like, I didn't, maybe it's just me, but I didn't really get that effect. I didn't think it was that insane. I didn't think it was that crazy. I thought there was like some moments where I was a bit like, oh my God, but it wasn't anything like I said, the Human Centipede crazy type of shit. Like, it wasn't like that. I just thoroughly enjoyed what I was watching. It was like, I kind of like films like that, which are a bit on like the risque side. So there's a lot of kind of language and gore and sex and things like that. Obviously, it's like cultish, so you're going to get all those things and all those are going to be involved. I do love a good cult movie, especially when it's done right. So I definitely think that Infinity Pool was a pretty good success. I know a lot of people didn't like this though, and I think it had a lot to do with like I said, the art house effect. There was a lot of visuals because a lot of the time in this cult they're snorting something that makes them trip, so they're on drugs a lot of the time, so visuals are very distorted. There's lots of flashing lights and loud music over like slow imagery and like things to just kind of demonstrate that they're like tripping and they're on drugs and they're doing all this crazy stuff. But I kind of like that stuff. I think I can only take it in with like a pinch each time. If the whole film was like that, I probably wouldn't have liked it as much, but it came in doses and I think it just worked. And it kind of brought you along with the journey of James, which I think just the more he was doing these drugs, the more he was with these people, the more you could see him changing and adapting as a character. So I think it worked. I understand the purpose of it. You know, I guess it can just push people away from these kind of movies because maybe they're not engaged, they don't understand, it's boring, whatever, which is fair enough. I mean, I personally thought it worked. And it just makes it a more fun and enjoyable watch because it's just slightly different and not something you see in a lot of movies. So yeah, I really like that about it. You know, I think they could have maybe amped up a bit more of like the gore and things like that. I was expecting it to be worse in the gory, bloody aspect and also the horrifying aspect. I wish we kind of dove more into like the cloning of people because we only saw aspects of it. So it would have been cool to like spin on like the policeman side of things and then seeing how things operated and worked when they were like doubling up and cloning these people. Like, that would have been cool. That's what I wish we saw more of, because we were focusing a lot more on the characters, well, the alive characters, rather than the whole process of, you know, cloning someone and then killing their bodies. And like, obviously there's still the question out there as well of like, is James the actual original James still, or is it a clone? Like, because he got copied a lot of times, but I think that's quite like kind of like the fun of it. It's kind of like a labyrinth that you just can't really get out of, and you just won't ever know who the real him is, which I think in a way is quite like creepy in a sense. When we finish the movie, if you think about it, you're like, this could be like the 10th copy of him, and like there could be effects to that. wouldn't be pissed if there was a second one of this that went more into depth, because I would love to know. I mean, I don't think they would, but I wouldn't mind knowing more about the kind of process into doing it, because we don't explore it as much, but we are looking at it from an outside perspective, which obviously makes it that like bit more dangerous and weird and crazy, which kind of adds to the like horrifying moments in the movie. But yeah, like, I think there were some things that could have been different, could have been changed, but overall I actually really liked it. It was fun, it was unique, and that is what I look for when I'm watching movies. That is what I want to see. I'm done watching the same boring, repetitive crap. I want something new, and this was definitely different and new. Actors were all great, story was interesting, I was engaged throughout, and I would definitely watch it again and buy it on DVD. So yeah, that is my review of Infinity Pool. I rated Infinity Pool a 6 out of 10. Like I said, it was pretty good, more above average for sure, but I think there could have been more things added in there to make it just come together better. And I want to know more about this universe, basically. I just want to know more. So if we added a bit more or had a second one, I'd be very more pleased with this. And the rating may go up if there's a second one, who knows. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you on my next review.